Step out of the vehicle now. The shout cracked through the air like a whip, jolting Jamal's pulse. His hands stayed exactly where they were, flat on the steering wheel, fingers splayed. "Sir," he said calmly, "not moving. I haven't done anything wrong." The officer's eyes narrowed. "Don't get smart with me," I said out of the car. Jamal glanced in the rear-view mirror. Traffic slowed. Faces turned. Some with curiosity, others with dread. "I'm reaching for the seatbelt," Jamal said, voice steady but firm. Officer Rourke's hand hovered over his holster. "Slow, and keep your hands where I can see them." Click. Jamal unbuckled, opened the door, stood up. "That's your car?" Rourke barked. Jamal nodded. "You steal it?" That one hit differently. Jamal looked him dead in the eye, but said nothing. Rourke stepped closer, jaw tight, posture flared. "You think I'm joking?" "I think," Jamal replied, choosing every word carefully, "you're pulling me over because of how I look." That was the moment everything tensed. The street quieted. The power dynamic was established, and Jamal already knew this wasn't just a traffic stop. Jamal's fingers remained motionless, even as his thoughts burned. His breath was slow, measured. A lifetime of lessons from his mother echoing. Don't give them a reason. The anger bubbled beneath the calm. But on the surface, nothing but stillness. He'd done this dance before, too many times. "I'm cooperating," he said. "You've got my license and registration." Rourke didn't respond, just stared, as if waiting for a twitch, a misstep. Anything. Jamal's jaw clenched. He wouldn't give it to him. His Range Rover idled behind them, clean, gleaming. Everything in it earned. Yet here he stood suspect by presence alone. Behind Rourke, a few pedestrians slowed. Jamal noticed. Some held phones. Others walked faster. He exhaled. The rage would stay buried for now. Rourke finally broke the silence. "So, what's a guy like you doing in a car like that?" Jamal blinked. "A guy like me?" "You heard." The officer crossed his arms. "This is yours?" "I said it was." Rourke smirked. "Bet you lease it. Flashy rims. Dealer plates." "What do you do, Rap?" "I'm a music producer," Jamal replied. "Legit business. Real taxes." Rourke tilted his head like he didn't hear right. "SoundCloud stuff? Are you part of one of those YouTube collectives?" Jamal's lips tightened, but he didn't take the bait. "I run a studio. I also mentor youth. Nonprofit work." That made the cop chuckle. "You expect me to believe you're out here giving back?" "I do it every week," Jamal said. "Not that I owe you an explanation." The smile vanished from Rourke's face. "That so?" Jamal knew he'd crossed an invisible line, but it was one worth crossing. The badge didn't hide the bias. It just gave it a microphone. The sidewalk began to shift. A teenager across the street angled his phone up, recording without speaking. A couple hesitated, then moved on. A man in a business suit kept glancing over, but never stopped walking. Jamal noticed every eye. He also noticed every one that turned away. Rourke's voice rose again, sharper now. "You think this is a game?" Jamal didn't flinch. "No, but I think you're on stage." The teenager kept recording. Another bystander raised her phone. Still silent. There were cameras now, but still no voices loud enough to stop it. Was always the thing with moments like these. Everyone saw, but not everyone acted. "I told you," Jamal repeated. "I'm a music producer." "Everything's legit," Rourke scoffed. "That so?" He tossed Jamal's registration back like it was trash. "My name's right there. Check the thing. Check anything you want." But Jamal knew better. Proof didn't matter when someone already decided you were guilty. He offered clarity. The officer saw defiance, and in that moment, legitimacy became a threat. Rourke turned away and spoke into his radio. Requesting backup. Possible stolen vehicle. Suspect is becoming uncooperative. Jamal's eyes widened. Uncooperative? His hands were still visible. His voice is calm. He swallowed hard. He'd been through this script before, but this time felt heavier. A second siren wailed in the distance. The bystanders looked up again. More phones came out. A woman muttered, "This is not okay." Jamal didn't move. Didn't blink. Inside, his heart thundered. But outside, he remained a statue. A taller figure stood still in the crowd, now silent. Familiar. Someone gasped quietly. "Wait. Is that?" Jamal couldn't see through the officers, but something in the air shifted. The tall figure raised his phone. Rourke paused mid-step, catching the movement. His expression faltered, for the first time, and suddenly he was being watched. Stay calm. Stay alive. It wasn't just advice, it was survival code. His mother drilled it into him from the time he was old enough to walk home alone. Keep your tone low. Don't raise your hands too fast. Always smile, even when it hurts. And it worked. At least most of the time. Jamal leaned back into his seat now, heart pacing like a beat drop. He could still hear her voice in his head, soft but firm. She never gave lectures, just lessons carved out of lived fear. Doesn't matter how nice you dress. Doesn't matter how polite you are. They'll still see what they want to see. And now, with the glare of police lights bouncing off his windshield, those words sat heavy on his chest, because tonight, it felt like no amount of calm would be enough. He'd made it out, or so he thought. Built a career in LA mixing tracks for big-name artists, then turned around and built something real for kids who didn't have much hope. A studio, a safe space, a mic, a beat, and a second chance. Every Saturday, he ran workshops for high schoolers in Crenshaw. Every Monday, he met with donors trying to expand his reach. The nonprofit was growing. The recognition was coming. But in neighborhoods like this, it didn't matter. You could pour into the community, fund scholarships, even shake hands with city officials. Still, a black man in a Range Rover would always be one bad moment away from being mistaken for a threat. Jamal was the kind of man who nodded at strangers and held doors open. He dressed clean, kept his beard lined, and spoke with purpose. His presence was calm, his demeanor professional, but he knew how it looked. Glances when he walked into boutique shops. The extra seconds of silence when he handed over his credit card. The tone changed when people realized his name didn't match the face. He had armor, his smile, his poise, but it wasn't bulletproof. It just made others more comfortable. While he stayed on edge, respectability had limits. And tonight, those limits were being tested. He loved his SUV. Bought it outright, no payments, no debt. But it spoke too loudly in the wrong zip code. To some, it said success. To others, it screamed suspicion. He'd been stopped before. Once in Beverly Hills, twice near Venice. Always the same question. Whose car is this? Tonight felt different. The way that cop looked at him. It wasn't routine, it was personal. Melrose used to feel dangerous in a different way. Now it had designer walls, green juice cafes, and murals with justice slogans painted by people who never lived the struggle. Jamal had just finished his youth session nearby and was heading home. Another win. Another day giving back. But as he cruised through the sanitized streets, he felt the tension in the air that no mural could mask. He didn't belong. Not here. Not behind the wheel. Red and blue lights flashed in the rearview mirror. That familiar sting crept up his spine. Not fear exactly. More like ... expectation. He pulled over slowly. Turned the engine off. Rolled the windows down. Hands on the wheel. Heart locked in place. He didn't reach for his ID. He didn't need to. He already knew this. Wasn't just a stop dot. It was the start of something. Whose car is this? The question came sharp. Almost rehearsed. Jamal met Officer Rourke's gaze without blinking. Mine. Rourke raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. Are you sure about that? Jamal bit the inside of his cheek. Registrations. In the glove box. License is in my wallet. Let me guess, Rourke said, tone flat. You just got it? First big payday? Jamal reached slowly, movements deliberate. I bought it 2 years ago. Clean title. Fully paid. But it wasn't about the car. It was about the assumption underneath. That someone like him shouldn't have it. Rourke didn't need to say it. A question said enough. He handed over his documents without a word. Calm on the outside. Quiet. Storm inside. Rourke flipped through them with the bored energy of a man who'd already decided the answer. Music producer? He muttered, half to himself. Jamal nodded. The officer squinted at the license, like he expected a crack in the laminate. A lie in the address. A typo he could pounce on. Everything here checks out, Jamal offered. I've got nothing to hide. Rourke didn't respond. Just kept staring, longer than necessary. Jamal had learned long ago that silence from a cop wasn't peace. It was a test. Where are you headed tonight? Rourke asked. Just finished a youth workshop. Driving home. You smell like weed? Jamal's brow furrowed. I don't smoke. Been drinking? No. You ever been arrested? Jamal hesitated. Not because the answer was yes, but because the question came fast. With purpose. No, he said flatly. Rourke leaned in, eyes scanning Jamal's face. No warrants? No priors? I don't have a record. Each question chipped at his. Patience. None of it is standard. All of it loaded. He wasn't being checked. He was being hunted for flaws. The message was clear. Prove you belong, or I'll prove you don't. Rourke finally cracked a grin. So you run some feel-good nonprofit? Jamal nodded. We help underserved teens find direction through music. It keeps them out of trouble. Cute, Rourke said, with a chuckle that didn't touch his eyes. What? You play the role. Model now? Jamal kept his voice level. I try to give what I don't have. The officer looked amused. That's noble. Real noble. But the words came soaked in sarcasm, not admiration mockery. Like a teacher patting the head of a student who tried too hard. Always interesting, Rourke added, when folks like you talk about giving back. Jamal didn't respond. Some words weren't worth answering. Am I being detained? Jamal asked, carefully. The question cut through the performance. Rourke's expression changed. The fake smile dropped. His shoulders squared. Why? You in? A rush? I just want to know if I'm free to go. The air grew heavier. You got something to hide? Rourke said, this time with a slight edge. No, I just know my rights. That was it. Not defiance. Just the truth. But to Rourke, it was a provocation. A second patrol car rolled up behind them. 2 more officers stepped out, scanning the scene. Jamal's stomach sank. He didn't flinch, but the message was loud. You're outnumbered now. Rourke didn't say anything he didn't have to. The power had just doubled, and Jamal hadn't even moved from where he stood. He could hear one of the new arrivals mutter something to Rourke. They both glanced his way. Jamal exhaled slowly. He was still calm, but that calm was thinning. Without breaking eye contact, Jamal reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He typed fast, thumbs steady. Text to Kayla, assistant, pulled over. Melrose and Stanley. Might need help. He hit send. Slipped the phone back and waited, knowing things were only just beginning. Out of the car. Now. Before Jamal could respond, Rourke reached in and yanked the door open. His grip firm and unapologetic. Jamal stepped out slowly. Hands visible, posture still. "You don't need to put your hands on me," he said calmly. Rourke shoved him toward the hood. "You don't tell me what I need." The metal kissed Jamal's chest cold and hard as the officer pressed him down. Legs kicked apart with practiced force. Jamal looked up, eyes locking with a woman across the street. She stopped walking. Her phone rose halfway, hesitating. Behind him, a few more faces gathered. The rhythm of traffic slowed. Is he under arrest? Someone called. Rourke didn't answer. "Cuff him," he told the second officer. "I'll search the car." Jamal's voice didn't crack. "This is harassment," Rourke smirked. "This is procedure." But they both knew it wasn't. "I'm not resisting," Jamal repeated, louder now. The cuffs clicked behind his back. He stayed still, careful. Every move is measured. Rourke started rummaging through the car like it was his own glove box open. Bags unzipped, fingers reaching deep under the seats. The second officer watched Jamal closely. No eye contact. Just presence. More phones appeared. Someone muttered, "Yo, he's not even fighting back." "I'm not resisting," Jamal said again. Eyes trained forward. It wasn't a defense. It was a survival chant. "Got something." Rourke shouted from the driver's side. Jamal turned, confused. "What?" Rourke stood up, holding a small plastic bag in two fingers. White powder sealed tight. His face twisted into fake triumph. "This yours?" he asked, loud enough for everyone to hear. Jamal blinked. "What are you talking about?" "Under the seat?" Rourke said, tossing a glance toward his partner. "That wasn't there," Jamal said instantly. "I don't use drugs." Rourke shrugged, raising the bag. "That's not what this says." Someone in the crowd gasped. A guy recording muttered, "No way." "You planted that," Jamal said, voice rising. "That wasn't in my car." "You calling me a liar?" Rourke asked. Jamal didn't answer. His silence screamed for him. Another officer radioed something back to dispatch. The crowd stirred. Something didn't feel right. The performance had a crack, and people noticed. "That's not mine." Jamal's voice broke through the static tension. Rourke didn't respond. He just held the bag higher, letting the cameras catch the moment. Jamal's breathing sped up. He looked around, faces staring, filming, whispering. Shame crawled up his spine, not because he was guilty, but because no one was stopping this. His body was locked down, but his eyes screamed for anyone to say, "This wasn't okay. This is a setup." He shouted. But at that moment, it felt like yelling into the water. "Hey, I saw everything." A voice cut through the murmurs. A white woman, maybe in her 30s, stepped closer. Phone raised. He didn't do anything. That bag wasn't in the car. Rourke ignored her, turning his back like she was wind. Another voice chimed in. Why's he in cuffs when he was just sitting there? More phones, more tension. The crowd swelled, not just in number, but in energy. "This is racial profiling," someone said. Rourke looked up, face hardening. But he knew. The shift was starting. And Jamal, still cuffed, felt it too. Unnoticed until now. A towering figure stood at the back of the crowd. No words. Just steady hands holding a phone up. Recording. Jamal couldn't see him, but others did. The guy in front leaned to the woman beside him. "That's Kevin Durant." Her eyes widened. "Are you serious?" He nodded slowly. "He's alive." The energy around them began to swell, silent but powerful. Someone said it loud enough this time. "Yo, ... is that KD?" A ripple moved through the people. Phones turned. Voices lowered. Even the officers glanced around. Jamal didn't react. He hadn't heard it clearly. But the fear Rourke wore on his face, That part didn't need explaining. Kevin Durant stepped forward, voice low but razor sharp. You just planted drugs on him. Rourke froze. I saw it, KD continued, calm but heavy. And so did my followers. He held up his phone. The live stream count blinked. 56,000. Watching. Gasps, murmurs. The crowd leaned in. Another officer shifted nervously. Sir, please step back. KD didn't flinch. You step back. Before this becomes bigger than all of you. The silence was no longer Jamal's. It now belonged to the people. Kevin Durant didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. You know, this is all on camera, right? He said, stepping forward with steady conviction. Rourke turned sharply, clearly recognizing him. KD held up his phone. Live stream still rolling. Thousands watching. Every second. The crowd shifted, some gasping, others already opening Instagram to confirm. You framed him, Durant said. And now the world's watching you do it. Rourke looked over at his partner, then back. At KD, the bravado faded from his face, replaced by something closer to dread. I suggest, KD added, you start choosing your next words very carefully. No yelling, no drama, just clarity. Authority that didn't come from a badge, but from truth and visibility. At that moment, the atmosphere flipped. The silence didn't belong to Jamal anymore. It belonged to the man who thought no one would challenge him. The comment count on KD's live feed climbed by the second. This is disgusting. They're planting evidence. Justice for Jamal. Tag CNN. The weight of exposure hit like a wave. One woman in the crowd shouted, "You're live on Instagram, bro. This ain't gonna end how you thought." Rourke backed off half a step, scanning the faces now locked onto him, not with fear, but with fury. A bystander muttered, "Yo, this is about to go viral." But it already had, and the more people saw, the less control Rourke had. The second officer, silent till now, stepped aside and spoke softly into his radio. Then, lifting his own body cam, he scrolled through playback. He paused, rewound, watched again. He turned toward Rourke, voice low. "There's a gap in your footage. 30 seconds ... missing." Rourke's jaw tensed. "It glitched." "Doesn't look like a glitch," the younger cop replied. "Looks like you turned it off." A different kind of silence settled over the street. This wasn't just social media anymore. It was internal. And for the first time, someone inside the uniform was questioning the story. From the crowd, a voice rang out. "I have the real footage." All eyes turned as the white woman who'd spoken earlier stepped up, her phone already unlocked. "This is from 5 minutes ago," she said. "I filmed him reaching into his pocket before going under the seat." She passed the phone to KD. Without hesitation, he played the clip, clear, steady, and undeniable. There it was. Rourke, pulling the baggie from his own jacket and slipping it under the driver's seat before announcing his find. KD looked up, eyes locked on Rourke. "So, what now?" The crowd roared, not in noise, but in intensity. Proof had a face, and a voice. KD pulled out his second phone and dialed without missing a beat. "Get my lawyer here." "Now," he said. "Yeah, Melrose and Stanley. It's already blowing up." He hung up and turned back to the cops. "You're going to need to be legal, too." One officer spoke. "Sir, you can't interfere with." "I'm not interfering." KD cut in. "I'm preserving evidence." And just like that, the dynamic shifted again. It wasn't just about a traffic stop anymore. It was about what happens when power is challenged. And recorded. A sleek SUV screeched to a stop at the curb. Jamal's assistant jumped out, holding a DSLR in one hand, a mic in the other. "You good?" she asked quickly. Jamal gave a barely perceptible nod. "More angles." More truth. And suddenly, this wasn't just about justice. It was documentation. It was survival on film. A third squad car arrived. Out stepped a ranking officer stern. Silent, already briefed by dispatch. He reviewed the crowd, the phones, the footage on KD's screen. Then, turned to Rourke. "Stand down," he said flatly. "Now." Rourke hesitated. "That's not a request." Rourke stepped back. For the first time since the stop began, the power shifted visibly. Finally, they pulled Rourke aside. No shouting. No handcuffs. Just silence and pale skin. He didn't argue. Didn't defend himself. Because what could he say? Everyone had seen it. KD approached Jamal gently. "You okay?" Jamal's voice was low, rough. "I almost wasn't." He didn't mean bruised. He meant erased. And everyone standing there finally understood what that really meant. By sunrise, the clip had crossed 1 million views. #justice for Jamal trended worldwide. News anchors debated intent. Celebrities riposted. Activists mobilized. Kids in classrooms whispered, "Did you see? What happened to the music producer in LA?" The live stream, the footage, the voices, it all collided into one undeniable truth. Jamal wasn't just seen. He was believed. And this time, the internet didn't scroll past. It held the moment and demanded something more. The world knew his name, not because he died, but because he survived long enough to speak. The department issued a statement brief. Defensive, already outdated by the hour. Rourke was placed on leave pending investigation. But the scrutiny didn't stop at one man. Protesters lined precinct doors. Journalists combed past complaints. A city once quiet cracked open under public pressure. For the first time, the system felt the weight of being watched. And no press conference could spin what the world had already seen. Jamal sat across from hosts on The Breakfast Club, on CNN, on NPR. "I didn't think I'd make it home," he said. "Not because I broke the law, but because I fit a description. Someone invented the moment they saw me." He didn't rage. He reflected. And that calm pierced deeper. He wasn't there to go viral. He was there to tell the story so no one else would have to live it. Donations poured in, some big, most small. "You gave us hope," one note read. "Now let us give you momentum." Kevin Durant matched the first $100,000. Jamal didn't cry, but his voice cracked. It wasn't charity. It was a belief. Not in him alone, but in what he represented. Dignity, survival, and the power of community. To rebuild what systems try to erase, he launched the initiative 3 weeks later. Cameras for justice, free smartphones, memory cards, and media training for underserved teens. "If they're gonna watch us, we're gonna record them," Jamal said at the launch. And that message echoed louder than any speech. Because when truth has tools, it doesn't whisper anymore. It documents. It defends. It dares the system to lie. Under quiet pressure, Rourke turned in his badge. No ceremony. No statement. No applause. Just a resignation filed, processed, and forgotten. Because sometimes justice isn't loud. It's final. If Kevin Durant hadn't been watching, would the world have believed Jamal? Would a black man's voice have mattered without someone famous holding the camera? It's a question we shouldn't have to ask. But one we can't afford to ignore. Have you ever been profiled or watched someone be silenced simply for existing? Drop your experience in the comments, because your story matters, and someone reading it might finally feel seen. If this story moved you, don't just watch. Act. Like, share, subscribe. Every click is a spotlight. Every share is a protest. Because storytelling isn't just art, it's resistance. And silence has never saved anyone.